So everybody set up, made their choices for night. Probably the most interesting. So over here, the elf taking preparation. They gave him one more card in his hand. Now he had a 6-card hand plus 2 for this. That goes up to 9 cards with the preparation. He picked one of the mana pools. Basically, I don't know if he can take this out all in one swoop, but he can do, I think, at least 2 of them pretty easily, and perhaps all 3. We'll see. 2 of them are going to go down to siege attacks and just get killed by that. So that's pretty hefty. But he needed more mana draw. It's kind of hard to... Again, I forgot. There's another monastery out there. There's 3 out there now. So now there's 3 of these. These should be being pulled earlier. But... I just not remembering. And it's not like anybody's gone to the monastery and tried to buy one of them. They're only 6 points, 6 influence. But the thing is, I was vaguely talking about him, if he was near a monastery. No, he didn't have the influence at the time. Anyway, this guy needed to make sure he has the mana to kill this. He thinks he does. Right now, I would say the elf is probably in the best shape. First of all, he's probably going to blast through half his deck on that attack, and that puts a real-time pressure on everyone else. And then, he's towards the top there. But maybe most importantly, he's got the terrain. He's got 2 cities near him. So chances are he will get, this one entirely, because nobody else is going to have time to do it. But probably a fair portion of this one. Whereas these guys, if the red city goes, or when the red city goes, it may well be both of them hitting it. Now, one thing that might have been possible is if a couple of people are close to a city, they could combine and join in and cooperatively attack it. And basically, you pass your turn in order to launch an attack. You have to be next to it and you have to move into it. But it does make it a little bit easier on both people to take the city out if they're, not facing all 3 critters at the same time. Alright, starting off the night, the dragon moved into place. He thinks he has a hand that can defeat this. The problem is his mana, which is why he has the mana search. He failed to roll enough to kill it last time. Actually, he probably could have. See, the thing is, he's going to need to take a black mana, and he's going to need to take a blue mana. And so he's going to need the crystal, probably. But I screwed up. I should have attacked it last time. I had the capabilities. It's just I would have depleted all my blue crystals, but I have this that can get me a new one if I need it. I don't know what I was hoping. I was hoping to be able to move on using less crystals. The druid finished off that dragon, used most of his hand, both of his critters. The familiars he had to pay a blue crystal for at the beginning of the round. You didn't see my round set up, but I hadn't done it quite yet. He doesn't know what's here, but maybe he'll go in if he has an attack hand. This is kind of interesting. This is tough. I think it's a red critter, and we've seen how tough those are. Plus, kind of, anything really except for these is pretty much, you don't know quite what you're facing. And if it's face down, you don't know what you're facing exactly with those either, but you might well have the arcane immunity or whatever in anything higher than that. I don't think anything at those levels has them. And that arcane immunity can pretty much, defeat the, I can definitely kill this, to, yeah, I'm screwed now. Especially at night where the magic, the extended powers of the magic can sometimes finish a critter off without it being able to do anything about it. I wasn't thinking very clearly last night. When I took this preparation, I grabbed a mana draw. I thought that got me enough, but it doesn't quite. I can clearly handle this thing and get whatever my bonus is there, which is a pretty good bonus. But the problem is, what I wanted to handle was a big hit on the castle first, because that guy's pretty little. Nobody's going to run over and take him. Or on the city first. And what I thought I had was, if I can draw enough mana, okay, I've got a spell that can do Siege Fire Attack 8. Okay, that's pretty good. Of course, that takes a red and a black. So there's my mana draw if I use that. Alternatively, I could use the mana draw white, and get 2 red for it, which might be where I have to go. Because I get a Siege Fire 5 from this, I have a Siege Attack 1 from this, and I have a ranged fire. Ranged isn't going to do it. They're fortified. Fuck. Yeah, I just thought that I had enough that I could kill 2 out of the 3. That would give me, level, etc., and some time to rest up. My Rejuvenate could get me my catapults back, so they're the big critter I have, basically, or the big troop unit I have. But again, I don't quite meet it. Just like last turn, I didn't quite meet it because of this. This turn, I don't quite meet it because of mana concerns. And I'm like, 2 of the players have huge quantities of crystals. I'm one of the ones that doesn't. Although the guys who haven't gone the crystal route have ended up ahead in fame. So, there's sort of a, hey, you burn opportunities by taking those crystals or whatever. So I really don't know what to do. I'm going to see if I can. I don't have much of a combat hand except for this card. The improv is kind of, I have some, but the problem is dealing with this, I may not be able to get rid of cards. Let's see if I can manage it. I think I can, maybe with determination and the improvisation. But I'm probably cutting it down so I don't have the mana to do what I need. If I have to use the mana draw for this, then I'm not going to have it for here, and that's where I really wanted it. Monster Den gives me a couple of neat things. I'm going up a level, but I don't do that yet. The Monster Den, first of all, it's going to give me its treasure, which is an artifact. Ooh, this one's very good. This one gives armor +1 and fire and cold resistance. That's great if you're going to take damage on your critter. And then if you throw away the artifact, it's pretty good too. This one allows you to discard cards from your hand. They each give you an attack 3. And each enemy you defeat in a turn gives you a point of fame. That's pretty darn nice. So that's probably what I'm going to go with. I do get the chance, though, to roll the second part of my bonus, which is free crystals. Hey, just what I needed. This is why I wanted to wipe that guy out. And I managed to do it. I had to use my guardsman, which is a shame, but we'll see. So I get 2 white and a green crystal. Not exactly the mix I would have wanted. Those aren't the colors that particularly help me, but yeah. And I'm going to take the Sword of Justice. This goes on the bottom. What happens with artifacts when you get one is you draw 2 off the top of the deck and you pick 1. And then, as with anything else, it goes on top of your deck. And now, it's one of the first, it'll be the first thing I draw, except I just went up a level. And it's the good kind of level. Although this guy kind of likes extra troops too. He has abilities like that movement ability, which give him that. Okay. One is create white crystals and green mana, which doesn't sound very appealing. The other one is added influence. Oh boy. What a lousy combination to pick from. Maybe there's something over here that I want. They're not useless chits. This one gives you mana, which is always kind of nice. And this one, well, if I succeed in the city, I'll be able to maybe hire these heroes or something, which would be quite good if that happens. These guys are kind of special. They have a ×2 influence reputation modifier on them. They're very expensive. They're pretty good, but they have certain specific effects to them that. So you have to pay 2 influence to activate this unit during any assault or attack on another player. That includes assaults on the city. So they're a little bit less willing to, conquer. That would make this more interesting if I'm gonna go for that. So I think it's likely I do, but let me look over other players' options. This one especially may be interesting. Kind of a mixed option with him. I took this skill. I took. Don't want to look there. I took it into the heat, which is going to be a good combat option. If I wanted a combat option on the skills, I would have taken this. It allows me to add 1 to my combat factor, but that's pretty weak. This thing might give me a chance at those heroes. Now, if I really wanted the heroes, I would have gone with learning, because that gives influence. But this one gives bonuses to all your units that are fighting, and I have a capability to bring at least these 2, and I could actually bring this one in too if I rejuvenate him or whatever. I think I'm going to probably be only killing 2 of the 3 critters on the first strike. The Into the Heat fixes my problems, right? At least some of the problems. The problem of that armor bonus. Red basically piddled their turn. They did a healing on themselves. Didn't have the hand that they wanted. They were picking last because they had the most fame at the time. So they didn't really get a good nighttime bonus card. Dix used his big spell to wipe out that dragon. That means it's less likely he'll be hitting the city, or at least finishing it off in this round, but it got me another level, another slot. And this guy over here decomposed, and this is kind of iffy, but because of the position he's in, he needs more combat cards to face this mage tower, he thinks. Once he gets in the mage tower, there's cool stuff he could recruit, I'm sure. Ice golems. Guess that's that. He could buy spells, but because he doesn't have his troops readied yet, there's just kind of a, alright, I want to kind of delay, and the thing he decomposed was his promise card, which means he probably won't be recruiting when he's in the mage tower. But that's a pretty crappy card when you're looking at combat. It's one of the things, it's like at some point or another you kind of want to cull your deck of those cards, but unless he has something to recruit with, and I think he still has intimidation. No, he got rid of intimidation too, or threatened, so he's not going to be recruiting troops for the most part. Although he does have a fair value here, so maybe. Anyway, that's half the players. So the elf's going to do his big thing. He moves in with the march counter, getting him into here. He plays a mana draw, using his mana for that, gets him 2 red tokens, one of which is going to be used to power up the catapults for fire, because these things that he's facing, well, they're high value. It could hit him with physical, but I did Into the Heat, which increases all my attacks for units and blocks by 3 in this combat. I may have a better move. No, see, I want to use the sword for this, for various reasons. The thing I was thinking was, if I regenerate or rejuvenate my guardsmen, they'd have a higher attack or block, so I'd be able to do something with them that's useful. And I might have wanted to block with them. But I kind of like the catapults better, so I'm thinking I'll hold the rejuvenate for that, or I could heal with the rejuvenate, but there are other ways of healing. I'm probably going to draw it. Okay, so what I'm able to add up, because Into the Heat adds 3, I'm able to get 8 and 4 is 12 siege combat. And 7 and 5 is 12. So I kill these 2 before they get to do anything. Now I've got to deal with this thing. Now it's brutal, so it's going to do double its combat value and damage, but that's okay. I let that go through rather than blocking it. So I'm going to take 6 hits. Now, because of Into the Heat, I can't take any hits on these guys, so it's 2 wounds for me. Okay, well, I've got healing on hand if need be. And then I use the Sword of Justice, discard 2 good cards. This is the reason not to use the Sword of Justice, is I'm kind of getting rid of my whole combat capability here. The Fireball, which would be pretty potent. But I get to kill this, and the reason it's worthwhile is because the Sword of Justice gives you 1 fame for each enemy that you defeat this turn. So now I've killed 3 enemies. I took a couple of wounds, sure. What happens here is since I defeated all 3 of the enemies present, and if there were more enemies, there'd be more slots, I put my shields, 3 of my shields there. And that means a number of things. It means I'm the leader in that city, for whatever that matters. That gives me 2 additional card draws when I'm in or adjacent to the city, but I get 2 card draws from this, and it's whichever one is greater. The other thing, though, is I'm able to recruit here later if I get cards for that, and I have +3 to my influence for interacting with the natives. So I've done a pretty good job in terms of things I killed. There's some interesting stuff going on here. First, there's the fame, which is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 for the sword, which puts me up to 40, 54, which will be another shield. So I got a slot if I need to recruit to it. And the elf is actually doing pretty well here. And the next thing is a couple of these have something special. So this guy gives me 1 reputation for attacking, but this guy loses me 1. I also lose 1 for attacking the city, which I forgot to account for yet, because I wasn't decided until I could tell everything I wanted to do. Since I knew what was in the city already, I could pretty much pre-plan my entire turn before I do it. And that's often the case here, is the actual resolution. There's nothing complex here. It's all in front of you. The only time it's complex is when you're wandering into a place that you don't know what's there. So I'd call that a pretty successful turn, actually a pretty successful round so far. That was most of my deck, but we'll see what else happens. He just had a huge card draw to begin with, and that's always a good thing. And red had a hand. This just too much movement, really. No real combat capabilities that could have handled this. I thought about it a little bit because movement can be used kind of as block for this. It reduces the attack value, which is pretty potent actually. But I just really had no ability to do damage, in part because I had no mana that I could draw. If I could have killed one of the critters, maybe I would do it, but without multiple mana draws, I just don't have that capability. So I moved into here, which I'm also not capable of facing by my judgment, but maybe I can kill one of them. There's 2 tans in there my next turn, and then we'll see what happens. Or maybe I draw something that I want to recruit in the monastery. I don't know. As it stands, my cards are siphoning into here. That's fine. I'm not losing anything for that. At the end of the, once that deck gets big enough towards the end of the round, I can do 1 massive attack. But again, that doesn't give me more mana. And that's the problem is, a couple of the people have big pools of crystals still, which gives them a lot of capability. He's actually starting to build up, even though he did his attack, but he blew a big hand of cards. Not to worry, we still have a full day and a night after this night, but it just felt like with us right up at the cities, it was time to start hitting them, and it's kind of not working out that way. There are some resources back here that got bypassed, which, you know, really would have been his ability to get at them, but he chose instead to move forward. And in part that's reasonable, because I can search out additional green tiles up here, which should be just as rich, if that's what I need to do. I need to be in striking distance of those cities, or else I'll just get shut out of, you know, one of the big victory point sections in the game. Round was basically delaying actions across the line, you know, grabbing some crystals in a couple of cases, healing. He did healing instead of awakening his units. It looks like he's going to want to recruit another unit. He's got a threatened card in his hand. We'll see what else shows up, but I figured if that's the case, I want to draw the most cards I can. And that's about it. The only person running, well, two people are running low on their deck, the Druid and the Elf. Otherwise, everybody's got a pretty thick deck, but maybe they should be using cards instead of playing delay of game, but their hands just have not reflected that. They have not matched that desire. Trying to figure out if they can slip their way in here into the city and do basically kill two critters. They have the attack capability. If I use the scouts to move, I get in. That means I don't have to use any cards for that. So then they're used. I have tons of crystals, so in a combat hand, so this should work, sort of. I can use a white mana here. I don't have any blue crystals. There's no blue mana available. I might get it off Mana Search, but who knows. To block this. That prevents the paralyzation attack. I have nothing to block these, though, and that's 12 points of damage. That's brutal. Well, 12 would be... That works out to 24. That would be 8 wounds. My hand card size is 6. I can't take that. If I took on these, I could get it down to 20. That would still be 6 wounds, I think. Yeah. 7 wounds. Again, I can't take it. So this doesn't seem to be an easy answer. Maybe if I can allocate my blocks better. I was looking at killing, you know, basically this and this, which would have been really sweet. But I do have an improvisation. The problem is these guys are hard to block because they're fire or fire ice. So it takes like 12 to block one of them, and I just don't think I have that. And on the other hand, this thing does 6 damage. If I take any damage into my hand, my whole hand is discarded. So again, I can't ignore that unit. I don't have enough armor in terms of the units that I have to be able to take the damage on them. None of these would be completely able to be taken there. And I really have like no block capability, nothing that would help there. This is a very, very ugly situation, just where you have the cards that should work for something. They don't. I don't have movement or anything like that I could go run to do something else, and there really aren't any things worth attacking near me. I've got this handful of combat, and it's not quite enough. And I won't get anything, right? Because if the paralyzation hits me, my hand's discarded before I get to attack. If these guys hit me with their damage, the knockout takes effect before I can attack, so I lose all my cards, so I get nothing out of it. Often it just requires a little bit more thinking to get things to work. So I'm going to re-roll my dice, but here's my plan. I'm only going to kill 1 critter instead of 2. That's the problem with it. I'll use improvisation with a 5 block here. I'll use dodge and weave on this. That drops it down to a 2. Actually, I don't have to use improvisation then. So I'll block that with this 2. Keep this, it's a flexible card. Here I have a 6 block if I use a blue mana, but I need the blue mana for this to work. So before we go in, we'll roll a couple of dice. Crap. Okay. Now we have to think some more again. Because we did not get a blue mana, and we don't have a source for one. Maybe there's another way to do it, but ugh. Of course there is. I knew this actually beforehand. There we go. We get a blue crystal, which we'll use for this. We get a red mana, which we're going to have to use. We'll power up our attack with that. We have another red mana we need here, right? No, because that's block 4 going downhill. So we got more mana than we need. We can't draw from the pool anything useful. Conceivably we could grab the red mana from the pool, but I don't feel like being particularly dicky. We'll take the white mana for the dodge and weave. So the dodge and weave is going to reduce this, so it's only a 2 strength. I can block that. This guy's a 6. I've got that blocked. This guy's going to hit, canceling out dodge and weave's secondary effect, which would be more combat capability. And that's going to do 12 to me. Now, I've already spent the scouts to move in. I'm going to end up in the same space. So, 12 to me, well, that would be 4 wounds against this. Taking 2 on here isn't going to help. That'll still be 4 wounds. So 4 wounds it is. Luckily we have some significant healing capabilities here. So there's my 4 wounds. All of these cards except the improvisation are used. And my attack kills this, which gets me 5 fame. I lose a point of reputation for hitting the city. And I might as well have more cards to draw. I'll heal 2 of my wounds with that. And I'll heal 2 more, since I didn't use a mana, by using a mana die. And at least I'm not, terribly badly wounded. Dude is using his little bonus movement, get himself into here, and attacks a random purple mage tower. Now this is fortified, and it also has physical resistance. It's not very strong, so I can probably overcome that, but it's going to attack me with a tan critter. And this is... So when you see these guys, you're kind of like, geez, I don't know if I can defend against what they're attacking. In a sense, that doesn't really matter here, because I didn't know what I was facing to begin with. So I'm facing a 5 attack. Okay, well I have to think, how can I deal with the 6 defense that I'm going to be facing? And I should be able to cope with that. I could improvise to get to a 5. That's going to force me to discard a card. And this gets me up to 7 if that makes the most sense. But that'll take a mana. I do have plenty of mana. So I'm looking at, will I be able to use this? I use Stamina to move into there. Do I really want to block this? Well, yeah. I could take a hit on my familiars. That way I wouldn't pay another mana on them. But we don't know what's going on. We're not... I could heal them. The question here becomes, do I want to charge up another card or just take the damage? Because I can take the damage from this without too much pain. And I think it's better to take the damage. Chances are... Oh, except I have this, which I believe is from the hand. Isn't it? Yeah. Might not be that big a deal to take the wounds in my hand if I can get rid of them. On the other hand, what about a crystal? Is that you know, that's the kind of thing you got to think about here. So the improvisation, if I'm going to discard a card, it's probably the determination. I think I'm going to take the wound. So I think this is my plan. I think I'm going to take the wounds into my hand. Time will cure them. And this goes away after it attacks. And now I do the 5-point improv, 6 for the rage. Do I want to get rid of the rage particularly? Yeah, I like the Druidic Paths because that gives me movement, and that's something I think I'm going to need up here. So I'm going to discard the determination. And, you know, I get my -1, but I get 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 for taking it. I get a bonus. I get a spell out of this, which I'll have to pick one. That takes some thought. But it's not too big a cost. And I used a mana, so I don't particularly want to do this right away. I kind of piddled this turn with a Crystallize, you know, just trying to get that hand together to do whatever it is he wants to do, which in this case is recruit. He has it, but would have to expend more. He has this promise in his deck still. He knows that, and it didn't come up though. So over here, Red decided to attack these nostrils, and she's going to get them. This is what she came up with. It's going to cost her everything, but so what I decided to do is first ranged attack this with 6. That kills it. Okay, so it's no longer in my way. This guy has only got ice resistance, so he's not a big deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do reduce armor and attack of a chosen enemy by 1. I may have done this wrong. Let's see, that brings this to a 5. So now I have 2, 4, 5. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that's good enough. No, I don't get to attack with him. I don't know which way I'm doing it. Okay, so I reduce enemy armor and attack by 1. So this becomes a 5, and one of his attacks becomes a 1. So I can block one of the attacks. I'm blocking. I don't know if this one's blocking. I'm blocking a second attack using the diplomacy influence. I've already used my white mana, my mana draw. And then I guess I have, I'm going to take a 2-point hit, which I could take on him, or I could take it into my hand. I think I'll take it on my shock troops. Although it's hard to remember, hey, do I have abilities that allow me, you know, to deal with stuff in my hand, wounds in my hand. I know she's got skills that do. And then for an attack, I have 2, 4, and I have to use this for the 5th. So I kill both critters. That'll give me my rewards, which amount to 10. Brings me up to 44. That's going to give me a good skill level. And I also get, for what this is, 3 dice worth of crystals, which is really super good because I'm low on crystals. A blue, a red, the black is just a fame. I prefer crystals, to tell you the truth. You know, fame counts towards victory, and it counts towards adding up, you know, to your next level, but the next level is just a shield level. But the crystals are just so flexible and useful. And now, you know, I have to pick what my... Oh, and I get an artifact choice. Here, what are my choices? Circulative proficiency. Use any non-interactive skill in the common skills offering. These guys. I can use it twice if it's a usable each turn. Or I can take a skill and keep it for the rest of the game as if acquired through a level up. That's very interesting if there's, a skill out there that I want to use. The other one's this Golden Grail, which is heal +2. Heal 2, fame +1 for each point of healing provided by this card you spend this turn. They're both good. And then these are if I choose to destroy it, which I might do at the end of the game if there's a huge advantage to doing so. These are the interactive skills. I can't steal those. This one would... No, this is interactive. I don't know that the skills that are out there are all that useful to me. So I think I'm going to take the Grail. Because healing... You can predict healing is going to be useful. The fact that, if I could use this one, it would be awesome, but I cannot. And then I get to choose my own skill. This is going to be an influence one. This is a siege attack +1. So here the question is 3 influence in the monastery terribly useful to me? Well, I threw away my influence card. I don't know what I'm going to get. I think I'll go with the siege attack. Getting extra attack capacity is always kind of nice. Let's just make sure. Well, now, wait a minute. There's a bunch of influence here. Combat capability. This, which allows me to buy advanced actions from the pool, and it only costs 6 here, but it goes in the discard. 9 if I want it in my hand. It's not as good a buy as buying them out of the monastery. But given that I'm close to the monastery, I think I'm going to pick this up because the healing doesn't really help me. The attack, yeah, it would help, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to get another attack off that's of great value. Probably a bad choice. I'm not really sure. Goldix here got something interesting. He already used his mana search, which is the Mind Read. This is worth using a crystal for. I'll blow one of my white crystals. Now, white is a color I need, but there are other colors I don't have. So here's the question is, do I want to use... I also have Crystal Joy to play with. Do I want to use... What do I need here? Because I'm going to be using the black mana from the pool. And this will allow me to get a crystal of a given color. Well, I have enough red and green, obviously. I'm not going to do that. Do I need blue? Not terribly. From this. Or do I want to replenish white for the promise? Well, until I go into there, it's probably not too important. So, what's tough here is people are going to have to discard a spell or action of that color. And then I can permanently steal an action card that's been discarded that way. And their hand doesn't replenish, which is kind of neat. So, there's something kind of cool to this, but unfortunately red is the most likely to be combat oriented. But blue is the second best. So I'm going to take a blue crystal and see, because I need to be able to get into there. And somebody might lose a card, so people are more likely to throw spells. What order is it done in? Well, I'm going to say it's done in player order after that card. And this is probably all he's doing for his turn. Two of the players had cards that were blue. She did not. Here it was a basic action. He actually had, I think, a choice, didn't he? No. It's a basic action, which, because it's a special card for that character, that sounds kind of neat. But even better was what came up here. He only had one blue, which is the Frost Bridge, which I'm going to take because that's an advanced action. That's worth victory points at the very least. And it's kind of cool. It's not really what I wanted, you know. I would have wanted a red card, but I didn't have the opportunity to get a red card. I think that's all I'm doing, though. Which is kind of a shame because my deck's still fairly large, but I need... You know, I've got these kind of delay cards like Crystal Joy, but I kind of need to do something. And that something's not really apparent from my hand. A lot of recruiting happening here. Let's see, after his go, our druid got these ice golems. Over here, the elf managed to buy the heroes. He used threaten, so he got a reduction in his capability, his reputation, which reduces for future capability to recruit. But that's okay. You know, I've got a pretty powerful set of folk here. And then over here, she didn't do a recruitment. What she did was two things. Healed herself to get a fame. And, oh, it's nighttime. I only need one move to get in there. Well, I can do it at another point. Did a training to grab one of the advanced actions. In this case, this counterattack by destroying, you know, one of her normal attack cards. So that's pretty cool. And the healing got her a fame. So, you know, I might need healing too at some point this night, but I don't want that card blocking up my hand when I'm either looking to recruit another unit, which I have room for, or maybe do something more exciting. Speaking of the more exciting, though, I could search this space. That'll give me, because I have 2 extra movement points each night turn. I shouldn't be wasting that. And this time, geez, we're really kind of running out of space here. This time, we're going to play correctly and grab another advanced action from that monastery. Not that anybody's been taking advantage of that so far. Pay attention as things are getting crowded here. I didn't notice there were actually 2 kinds of heroes, and the dragon went and grabbed the second kind over here, using his promise and probably and a threaten as well, and reduced his overall value there. But yeah, they're good troops, so I'm pretty happy to have grabbed that. I didn't have anything better to do at this point. Pale green, slowly healing using his ability. He's got a card that could heal, but he doesn't have a lot of cards, and he thinks he can do at least this. And, you know, might as well heal first and wait until somebody calls the end of things and then go in there and grab that. Probably only the level 2 at most. May have trouble even getting to that, but we'll see. And now we're on blue, the elf, and he has a troubling, too many options, basically. I have this Song of the Wind, that if I play blue mana I can cross the water, but I don't really need to do that because it reduces this to only 2 and this to 0 and this to 0 if I use a white mana, which I actually have in crystal form. So I could fly all the way to there, or I could fly to the monastery where I have my noble manners. There isn't a lot available at the monastery though. Alternatively, I could use my noble... I'm out of extra cards. I could use my noble manners. Oh, I have a decent amount of extra influence off that card. I could probably use my noble manners in the city at the very least, let's see, I could get the guardsman because I'm in the city that lets me recruit anything I like. Or I could pay extra influence and see, hey, is there something more interesting that I can buy? I do have a fair amount of combat cards, so I want to consider whether or not I can take this city, or at least, take a significant part of it without taking too many damage, because I have these heroes. Of course, I have to pay 2 influence to use them, but noble manners will pay that off. I'm not going to be able to take it out, that's for sure. But if I use my 2 movement without any mana, I can get here. At 2, 3, 4, actually. And this is not a terribly useful card. I play my noble manners so that my heroes can come in. They can block this. They have if I have to use a blue mana though, which I don't have, shit. They have a cold fire block 8. This has a cold attack of 8. So that was my thinking there. If I had my catapults available, this would work, because and all the mana and everything, I could put 6 plus 5 and do an 11 to this and kill this thing, which is really a tough critter. I'd have this guy blocked with the heroes, and then I'd take the damage from this, but that's pretty minor, and I'd kill a big critter. But as it stands, I really don't think I can get there and do anything of value. I mean, I could kill this thing off, but this thing's really not the problem. This thing I need fire attack for, and I just don't have it because he's got the physical and cold resistance. Plus, I really need to block him if I can't kill him, with something like the Siege Fire 5 right away. If I can't kill him with missile weapons, I have to be able to block him because he'll drop my hand. So I just don't see I don't see a good answer, because I really can't block 11. And like I said, I don't have the mana for this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw and see if I can get anything interesting. Or maybe as an alternative, let's look at these and see if there's anything there that I really want in terms of the advanced actions that I could get at the monastery. There's no troops at the monastery. But, I mean, I got these scouts. They're not terribly good. At the very least, I can get the guardsmen to replace them. So unless there's something really good there, I don't think I'm going to go in, because I don't have any bonuses here. I have 4 off this, and it'll give me fame and reputation. These guys give me another 5 if I use them for interaction instead of for combat. And I can keep my movement cards and move to the monastery and be in preparation for hitting that blue tower during the day. And then end things fairly early. To go to the monastery, I'm able to come up with 12 influence by blowing everything. I'm going to take Peaceful Moment. That allows me to ready units at the higher level at 2 influence per unit, and it's not by it's by level of the unit, so it's a fair amount of influence to ready a big unit, but I think that's worthwhile. And then the question is, do I take just a cool card for attacking for later? I'm not going to be able to use it right now. Or do I take Crystal Mastery and grab myself a replacement crystal for the one I'm blowing? I think given the situation, I'm going to take the Agility, even though I'm getting rid of a white crystal. These guys are worth victory points at the end of the game. Pretty much everything you can collect is worth victory points, even crystals. Your troops that you have are worth points, etc. Everywhere you have shields on the board is worth them. So I think this is probably the best I can do, and it means I'll probably be passing next turn. Unless, you know what I can do? I could refresh these guys. I don't know how much that helps. But I could play this to get another card afterwards. So that's actually pretty rich. I'll be continuing to go if people let me. I'm finishing things up using her learning and an improvisation to grab the ice bolt. She draws the rest of her hand, which means she can grab the sparring power next time around. I'm going to refill this though. That ice bolt unfortunately goes into the discard pile. If it hadn't, maybe something else would have been of interest, but I didn't have enough. I didn't have a white mana available. I had a red mana that I grabbed and used. If I had a white mana available, I could have done the 9 points, because I have a red crystal, to put the card right into my hand, and then maybe that wouldn't have been the best choice of cards. I had to throw away a good card, or discard a good card. I chose the counterattack because these two help me significantly with, hey, I've got a huge hand of cards. In case I end up attacking this, I can power it up pretty high. I don't know how likely that is, but we'll see what I have left in my deck at that point. Been away for a little while. I started playing a stupid online game, and this is my way of escaping from everything. Anyway. I'm looking at the regeneration card, and I'm a little disturbed by it. The way it's worded, heal 1, ready a level 1 or 2 unit you control. Now, when I read something like that, I say, okay, do those 2 things. But what's bothering me is somebody has a special regeneration, which gives them an aura on all of those. I thought their specials were somewhat more powerful. And I'm a little disturbed because I feel like there should be an aura there, but I don't think anybody has an aura there. Never mind. This is the advanced card. Yeah, so this does do both. Alright, well, having a hard time figuring out what to do with the long delay, but I feel like with Tremor, I have the core to a decent hand. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get through it all quickly enough. Regenerate I can always replay, so I'll probably Crystal Joy this turn, and then I don't know, maybe I can Crystal Joy now, because if I use a color that's out there, then I don't have. See, the problem is I need 6 movement to get to this city. I'm going to want to do some damage to it this turn. Continuing diddling. This guy played his Crystal Joy. And he's not going to be able to do anything too interesting. He's just going to move towards this city. Get into the desert while it's night and the movement's cheap. The elf played his influence card. He's at a monastery. He bought himself Crystal Mastery. This didn't look all that useful. He doesn't have really the capability to do another attack with what he's got left. So, even though there's a couple of combat cards in there. And now Sparing Power has been unleashed. Huge hand of cards. None of them are movement except for this one. Which means we really can't go very far, so we're going to poke this orc over here. This should be pretty trivial. Although we can't do the whirlwind yet. Alright, well, it's a little tiny guy with 2 little attacks, which kind of sucks because I don't have little blocks. So, is there green mana available? Yeah, I'm gonna drop this on him, and I fire this, and that takes it out. Okay, this is gonna be expensive, but the dragon I think is close to being able to hit this. I probably can do it, I just don't have it figured yet. And part of the complexity is these damn heroes requiring 2 influence for an assault. Shit, no. 6 movement points, right? Son of a bitch. I thought I could get there at 4. Yeah, it's going to be 6 movement. I don't think I can do it. 6 movement points to get there. Tremor, I have to use 2 mana for this. Well, black mana, I need a green mana from there, so there goes one of my crystals. Green and a black for this. Boom. That would reduce the armor value of both of these critters to 5 and 4, respectively, by 4. The problem is my attack. My attack, or my block, I'm looking at stuff I can't block. I mean, I just don't have it. Which means I'm going to be taking 6... Oh, shit, I didn't see this one. I saw this one, I didn't see this one. So I'm going to be taking 24 points of damage. Yeah, I don't think I can do it. Because 24 points of damage... So, that's... By me, that would be 8 wounds to me. I can't take that without getting knocked out. Heal 4. I can take 4 of that. That drops me down to 20 points of damage, but that's still 7 wounds to my hand. If I take 7 of that 24, trying to kill just one critter, I end up with 17 points of damage, which is still 6 wounds to me, knocks me out. I think I'm just screwed here. I can do a partial move and hope that something good comes of it. Doesn't really hurt me to do this, and it gets me that other card, which I think I'm going to need. Today I attacked this damn orc, and now today I see, oh geez, I'm sitting on this nostrils. I had an attack hand. It's not as good as it was, but it's probably good enough. Well, it's hard to tell because I don't have this spell. That's one of the reasons I did it. Now I have the mana pull, which is better for her than anyone else. I can take a black mana and make it white with this, so I can actually cast this spell. That sounds pretty good to me. That gets one of the critters. Unfortunately, I've used everything up. Some influence. I could, if I go to the village, I could grab some peasants, but I think this is my one chance to get these, so I'm going to go for it. Let's see what we draw. Well, we draw something that can't be hit by... We draw 2 things that can't be hit by our spell. Well, that's a kick in the ass. Well, I can't block these guys very easily. We'll see, what's up, but I have nothing that really allows a block. But what I do have is this Blood Rage, which is an amazing card. So if I could boost this with concentration, I could get myself up to an 11 attack. Wow, that sounds pretty good. I can attack both critters at the same, so they're not going to have any different defenses, right? Okay, but they're not 8. They're not 8 between them. There's 16 between them. 2 8s. Alright, gets a little harder, but we can still get there, right? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yay! Right? Except there's no green mana. Hey, that's okay. I got this little converter. I'll use that. There's no white mana. I have no crystals. I shouldn't have attacked, given I was counting on Whirlwind there, but I think things are going to end soon. But yeah, I could have probably delayed doing something. I don't know. Well, if we don't block, we're going to take a lot of damage. But let's see what we can do. There is red mana. Not over there. But through our converter, we can get up to a 9 attack. We're going to take 8 points of damage to begin with. Where's that 8 going to go? I don't know. I really don't. But I can take it as 2 more wounds in my hand, or I could take it on these. I think I'm going to take it in my hand So with this, that's going to be 3 ones. That gets me to 9. I kill one of these 2. Maybe if I hadn't done what I did with attacking that orc, I had a good enough attack hand I could have taken both out anyway. Is there anything else I can do here? I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm 1 short. There's nothing I can do. I don't have an attack. I don't have anything that could help here. I can't generate a white mana. Unfortunately, white and green are the same. Oh! No. I have the mana pull. Mana pull's weird. So I use mana pull. I take a black mana, turn it green. That gets me to my 11. 12, 13, 14, 15, because I had to use the mana pull. Oh, shit. Sucks. Yeah, I think I kill 1. I guess I'll keep the rest of the cards. I don't know what to do with them. This is the kind of issue, the mistakes that I made recently, especially on her, are the kind of things that happen because I walk away from the table. And that's why I'm saying this game, you know, I don't mind it so much opposed where I feel like I have to be sitting most of the time playing a game with someone. But when I play game solitaire, it's usually filling, you know, time in. I like to take a lot of breaks. I do a cycle or maybe 2 and then walk away. Now, when I was playing pretty heavily early in the game, that was easier. But now that I've got something else I want to do, this doesn't, you know, fulfill the same kind of solo capability that a lot of other games that I like to play do. There are a fair number of games, pretty much any Euro, and I classify this as pretty much a Euro. Any Euro that you play, you have to keep everything balanced in your head and know exactly what you're going to do, because they're designed, not that this is, but in general, they're designed for these kind of fast turns where you know what you're going to do, you do it, you do one thing, then the next person goes. It does tend to not work as well solo for me, and that is a part of why even games that I kind of enjoy playing, when I'm playing opposed, I don't get as much out of when I'm playing them solo. War games tend to be pretty good solo. The 18XX probably isn't, but I'm kind of so familiar with the thought process involved in it that I make less mistakes. But, I just don't know if I'm in the mood to deal with this. It's the hard number balancings. I could ask him to help, but he has very, very little. In fact, nothing, because he doesn't have movement to get in there. He's going to need 2 movement. He's only got 1. He's got no cards. Okay, so I'm just looking for something, and you know, you think you find something for a moment. Like here, I'm like, okay, there's 2 of these dragons. Great. Well, what if I drop this down to 3 using an earthquake? Earthquake destroyed things, but and then use my ranged attack. But I can't, and I mean, I spend everything, figured out everything. I'd take like 4 wounds. I'd actually be able to kill both because I'd be able to get through, because this guy would then attack. But I neglected a couple of little pieces. One was this takes 2 influence, so I can't use him. And the other was, yeah, ranged combat doesn't work. It's a fortified location, and there goes my board. And you know, sometimes this game is just absolutely infuriating. And probably when I play opposed, I cheat by accident. Enough times that maybe it's not quite as infuriating, but you know, and I probably have cheated here as well, but I've probably gotten better at not cheating. Again, we're not as pressed as I'm used to, so it could be that there's, you know, a need to go explore more, to do more, because I'm used to more opportunities for advancement before I get to those cities. That could be what's frustrating me here. On the other hand, one thing it means is that the game presents very differently when you're playing with 4 people than it does with 2. With 2, you get through, I felt like I hit the cities at just about the right time to just barely skim by. And remember, these cities, and this could be some kind of incompetence on my side, but I'm not sure what there is. You can only look at these cards and squeeze so much out of them unless you cheat, But these cities can be dialed up a lot higher than 4. And I'm just having a hell of a time getting through them when I'm used to, hey, by the time I hit the cities, I'm ready to take them. Well, that may not. I mean, obviously, some of the people can, and the alpha is doing fine. But here, I've got what looks like a pretty good hand, and I can't even attack and pick one off because I can't take the damage, Now, granted, I am partially exhausted here and everything, but I'm going to walk away, maybe come back tomorrow or later today or something, but I'm looking at this and I just can't face it. Because I know what it's going to mean. It's going to mean that I withdraw from where I am. If I can get 6 movement together, I can get a pile of fame here. That might be my best move. I don't know. I mean, I should be able to. I've got 6 movement. That's not the issue. And no, the issue is I just don't want to fucking play. Actually, that's probably at the heart. The only games I've had any excitement out of recently have been the XX games I've been doing. I get almost nobody watching them. Then I delete the review, of course, with 18OE. YouTube is just such a bitch. But honestly, I get complaints from people who want me to do war games. I'm just not in the fucking mood. And I'm not really in the mood for this either. The only thing I was at all excited about was the XX. Maybe I'll just say screw it and stop doing bids for a while. Because it's just not, I'm just not really getting a thrill out of this. And I was kind of enjoying this initially. But as it started getting difficult to come up with the number crunching, it became just a chore. And that's the thing with the war games too. It's just I love war games and everything, but supposedly at least. But right now I just have no will to set one up. I can do the GBOH stuff, but I'm not getting any fun out of it particularly. I'm just doing it because it's as good as doing a lousy video game, But it's easier to just sit in my chair and rock. Okay, well, let's take another crack at getting myself out of this malaise as far as gaming is concerned. And it hasn't just been Mage Knight. It's been a lot of things. Only the 18XX fixed me. One thing is, one of the guys at the game box, I got a couple of people who hadn't been posting much now that everybody left are actually starting to post things. I guess, I don't know, they felt inhibited when there were things being said, but it's just meant to be a place where people hang out and chatter about games. Anyway, one of them suggested to me, he's played more than I have, when you're sitting in a village, pillage the village, or plunder it. It's something you do outside your own turn, but it gets you 2 quick cards, and you're allowed to do it once before your next turn. And I have never done it in any games I've played. And there are places where it's useful. For example, right here, hey, I'm next to something big. I could use 2 extra cards for my attack. I'm ready to go in, but, I can make it a little better. The cost is, it costs you a point of reputation. But that's not that big a cost. And it can give you just enough of a boost to hit something a little larger. The reason I never did it is probably I put it out of my mind in the same category as burning monasteries, which I do, thinking, well, gaining 2 cards if you pay anything kind of sucks. But not if you're just paying a reputation. I thought you had to, like, attack something. Well, if you don't have to attack anything, it's not that bad. Alright. The best the dragon could do, in my opinion, he could have moved back here, but he had enough movement, throwing cards for weird stuff, that he could make it over here, grab the ruins. He had to use up 2 crystals to do this, but it got him 7 fame, put him up a level. Hey, that's pretty good, you know. And then I need to use that card for that, yeah. Actually, I could have played this for an additional mana from the source, because there was a 2 blue in there. I rolled and got a red, so that'll save me a little bit. And so we're not in that bad a shape. And there's a monastery here now between these two. Hey, let's remember to do this in time. So that's not too bad. We got a forced pass here, so it's going to end. We finished things up with everybody kind of doing some administrative stuff. The elf had nothing to do, but Red here moved into this monastery, healed some of her wounds. She's got still a fistful of them, but, you know, in better shape. This really went horribly wrong because of the arcane resistances. And Green got one more turn, a chance to use his skill and get a crystal. Actually took 2 crystals, took a wound for one of them, but heals the wound with the heroes. You know, they didn't turn out all that well. I gotta worry about the familiars here during cleanup. That's always something to consider. But otherwise, we're moving into the 3rd day, which means one more cycle before this is over. And we'll send this up. By the way, I do feel a little bit energized. You know, simply the fact that people are talking about these things, you know, helps me. And that's why the game box was created, was because I couldn't post over and get into conversations over at Board Game Geek without getting myself into trouble. And I'm trying again, but, you know, I see myself on the edge of it at times anyway. I'm an online, you know, I'm such an asshole sometimes. Just I say things in certain ways and then it escalates things. And hey, that's life, you know. And usually, and what's really crazy there is then I'd back away and I'd manage to explain my situation. Everything would kind of clear up between the 2 people who had the, you know, engagement, me and someone else perhaps, quite often. And then, you know, the next day, sometime long after there was any need to intervene and say, you know, this is getting overheated, let's put a cool down on people for a day or 2. No, then you get a ban, and they're progressive bans, so, like, you know, you say something that triggers or is seen as an attack by a couple of people, and sometimes both of us would get a ban, but, you know, it was up to, I think, 3 months on my last time I got one, which is just crazy because it's just, you know, my style clashes with what their rules are, which is that this is just the way I operate, you know, and it doesn't end up in huge flame wars. It ends up with one statement which could be a good sign towards a flame war. Anyway, more recently they started banning me for crazy shit, so within the last like 3 years or so, 4 years, it's just been, I was drawing bans for some stupid stuff that some of what, and that's what triggered creating the game box, which was I need a place where I can freely talk and where it's kind of an open forum on gaming. And unfortunately, too much politics showed up there, and a lot of people no longer felt comfortable. Like about 80% or more of the people who started posting. But that's why I created it, was so that I would have this kind of spark that kept me interested in gaming and doing these. And it just never really worked out because the level of discussion usually, it declined. The first year it was pretty good, and then it just sort of went downhill. And more of it just became, oh, it's a free speech site. Let's, blast each other for being liberal or conservative, which would be fine. I don't mind that part of it at all, as long as the gaming speech was good enough. But that's a whole mess. But hey, if you want me to keep doing these, make sure to post there.